Hi, welcome to another dose of virtual vitamin Z. My name is Stephen, and I'm the curator of Humane Education for the Detroit Zoological Society. Today, our lesson's topic is nature observation, and in particular, how we can learn from animals to observe the soundscapes that we live in, and then map those out so that we can start protecting those soundscapes. And the terms that we're going to be using include observation, which refers to the process of using all of our senses to perceive our environment. That includes our sense of sight as well as our sense of hearing and our other senses. And in particular, what we're going to be observing is our soundscape, which you can think of a landscape as the land that you can see. A soundscape is everything that you can hear around you. And one of the tools that we'll be using for this are our deer ears, and I'll talk more about them. We can also think of them as horse ears. And we'll be using a process called sound mapping to map out the sounds in our space and learn more about them. And then finally, we'll talk about how we can protect our soundscape by reducing noise pollution. So to get started, let's learn from, in this case, a horse, our horse Trio, who lives at the Detroit Zoo and was rescued and found sanctuary here, how we can do a better job of observing soundscapes. Now, we as humans, many of us, our sense of sight is our dominant sense. We rely on it more than our others, and we think about it more than our others. So one thing that we can do to better observe soundscapes is we can close our eyes and avoid using that dominant sense so that we can start using our other senses, like our sense of hearing. The next tip is to listen out. And listening out is a process where we start by listening to the things that are either closest to us or that are the loudest. And then we progressively listen further and further away from us or listen to quieter and quieter sounds. So for example, I might start by closing my eyes and then listening to my own breathing, and then listening to the sounds of the room I'm in, or if I'm outside, listen to maybe the sounds that are within 10 yards of me. And then I'll listen a little bit further, maybe to the sounds that are 50 yards, the sounds in the building, and then further and further out until I'm listening to the sounds of my neighborhood, my community, or in this case, the zoo. Another tip is to move your head. Now, one of the things we can learn from Trio is that Trio has these large ears, and Trio is able to move those ears around to focus in on different sounds. You can think of them as satellite dishes almost. Now, we as humans, at least I can't move my ears, but one thing I can do is I can move my head. And as I move my head, I will start to notice that some sounds get louder, others get quieter. And especially if I'm doing this with my eyes closed, I'll be able to really pinpoint where those sounds might be coming from. And then finally, tip number 4 is to give yourself horse ears. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right here. So horses have larger ears, so do deer. And a lot of animals, especially animals who need to be really careful to avoid predators, have larger ears than we do and stronger senses of hearing. But we can mimic that by, first of all, putting our hands up like this, and then by making them into cups, and then moving them behind our ears and pushing our ears forward. And if you do this with me, you'll find that this really does magnify your hearing. Another really cool thing that you can do is you can move these around, move your head around, but also move your hands around, your horse ears around. And for example, I might take these and flip them, and now I'm hearing very different things than if they're looking forward. So that's one other thing that you can try to better observe your soundscape. Now let's think about how we can use those tips to do what's called sound mapping, which is an activity, but it's also the first step in protecting our soundscape. And by doing this activity, we'll increase our reverence and strengthen our observation skills. And the supplies you'll need include a field notebook and a pencil or just a piece of paper, and you can also use a pen. And there are 4 ways that you can do sound mapping, and I would recommend starting with 1 and then working your way down to number 4. So the first thing is you can just list the sounds that you hear, and you can even tally them. So right now, for example, I might be hearing an air conditioner, I might be hearing some other people in a building, things like that, and I can write all of those down, and every time I hear them, I can make a tally. Next thing is I can map the direction of the sounds that I hear. Which of those sounds are coming from in front of me, which are coming from behind, left, right. Then I can map the directions and distance. So some of those sounds in front of me might be closer or further away. And then finally, I can map the direction, distance, and the time that I hear them. So I can do one map, then come back and later and do another and compare them. So here's what that might look like if I were out in my backyard observing and doing sound mapping. First of all, let's say that I heard squirrels, birds, wind, neighbors, cars. And then I can map the directions I heard them from. And to do this, I made a circle and then I made an X. And everything that is in front of me goes in this part, everything to the left here, everything behind me here, and everything to the right here. And I just used the initial, the first letter of the things I observed to save space. The next thing I did was I mapped the direction and the distance. So I drew some concentric circles. In this first circle is for what's really close to me, maybe within 10 yards. Then the next circle is for things that are within maybe 50 yards. And then finally for things that are within 100 yards. And you can make more and more and more of those circles to be more and more specific, just like you can also be more specific with the direction. And then finally, I did one sound map in the morning, and then in the evening, I went back and did another. And as you can see, you might hear different things. You might not hear something in the morning that you hear in the evening, or vice versa. You also might hear that the same things have moved around. Maybe some birds who live near you are in a different tree. And here's an example of a really sophisticated sound map that was created by the National Park Service. And they do this because they want to protect not just the things we can see, but also what we can hear, because they know that soundscapes are important for humans, for other animals, and for the environment, and we need to protect them. So this map shows that in yellow are the areas where the highest sounds are, and then in blue are the areas with the lowest sounds. And it does kind of map onto where cities are, which makes sense. So they do that not just to be able to understand the soundscapes, but also to protect them. And so we can do that too. And by taking this action, we'll be increasing our sense of responsibility, strengthening our empathy, and helping animals and the environment. And to do this, we won't need any supplies. And to show you how to do this, I'm actually going to bring us to the National Park Service's webpage on natural sounds and how we can make a difference. And if you look at this webpage, you'll see that they list some different things that we can do, like minimizing our noise footprint and how we do that, enjoying a quieter ride, planning for the future, and then what we can do at home. For example, not using motorized tools, using non-motorized tools instead, considering noise when buying new things, being considerate of the people who share our space, using mass transportation, and then joining a carpool or riding your bike. And that's something that I've started doing is, walking and biking more. And one really cool experience I've had with that is I've been able to hear more animals in my neighborhood because I've not been driving. I've been walking, making less noise myself allows me to hear other animals. And it's been a really cool experience. So I would definitely encourage you to spend some time, taking some of those tips and seeing how you can more effectively observe your own soundscape. And that leads me back to the Detroit Zoological Society, where we celebrate and save wildlife every day, in part through our Berman Academy of Humane Education, which is a process and an initiative through which we are helping people help animals. And I hope that through this lesson, you've seen how by observing your soundscape and by really reflecting on it, you're able to recognize ways that you can help animals and the environment. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you're interested in more virtual vitamin Z, be sure to check out our webpage at detroitzoo.org and then click on the education tab and click on the link for virtual vitamin Z videos. Until then, stay safe and have a great day. Bye.